Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. So, you're Simone. Pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. What's Kingsley, right? Is your name?
Kingsley.
Yeah.
Kingsley, yes.
Uh-huh.
Simone, where are you from?
I'm from the United States, from Colorado.
You're from Colorado.
Hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
And what do you do? Are you living in Colorado right now?
Well, I'm not. I actually live in Spain at the moment.
Why? Okay. Why? That was supposed to be right and why at the same time. So I was like, why?
No,
Right. So, yeah. So, why are you in Spain? Sorry.
it's okay. Well, I always wanted to travel, and about 6 years ago, I came to Spain, and it's very common. I fell in love and got married.
That's what happens. That's what happens.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I'm in Greece at the
Are
moment.
you really? Oh, how funny.
Yes.
So we're actually not
Yes.
that far away from each other. Well,
No, we're not.
yeah,
Well, technically we're not.
yeah.
But yeah, I was living in Czech Republic though before.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, so it was interesting that you said, yeah, you met someone, and which is exactly what happened to me. I met a girl,
Uh-huh.
and I followed the girl to Czech Republic, and then the baby came, and then I came to Greece to work, and
Yeah.
now I'm just like no one is where they're supposed to be.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's like, yeah. So what is the site? What is the YouTube? What were you trying to do? What
Uh, It's called English with Simone, really. And all I'm doing basically is just having conversations with native speakers, with non-native speakers, so that people who want to learn English can kind of see how a conversation will go, can learn
Okay.
a conversation, like the flow and the words that we use and that kind
Yes.
of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that is well, that's pretty much what I do.
Yeah.
Because like most of the times when people ask me, they're like, "Are you a teacher?" I'm like, "Not really." And they're like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "I like to like with English, it's one of those things where you either know it or you don't.
Mm.
So you either have the basics,
Mm-hmm.
your name, where you're from, where you live, what you do, and what are your hobbies.
Yeah.
And if you don't have those already, I can't do anything. Like I can ask you those questions, but then after that,
Mm.
the flow of the conversation is the most important part.
Yeah.
It it's like how does the conversation go? And so I tend to try and I treat my students like I'm on a radio show.
Is that right?
Yeah, just so that they can understand, like, because a lot of people expect, "Hello, how are you?
Uh-huh.
I'm fine, thank you. How was your day?" My day. No one speaks like that. I haven't spoken like that in forever. I mean, like, and I tell my students this sometimes, like, have you never met a random person on the street that just suddenly just shouted up, "Water! I need water!" And you're like, how do you handle that? How do you handle that? Like, what are you
Yeah.
gonna do?
Yeah.
Like, someone just kind of like, you know, the end is near, COVID, and how are you gonna handle that? Like, you're just gonna say the most random things. People are random, and so how do you deal with a random conversation? And
Yeah.
that's what I enjoy. Like I don't know what I'm gonna get next, so it's like
Mm.
give me the next random thing. My favorite thing with conversations is, especially with non-native speakers, I like to say their favorite thing to say is, "Oh, sorry, my English is not that good." I'm like, "That's a perfect
Yeah, my
sentence."
students say that all the time to me.
I'm like, but that's a perfect sentence. So your English is, you know, in fact, and I always try to let them know, like, especially a lot of them that speak three or four languages,
Uh-huh.
and they're just adding on English.
Yeah.
So for them, English is a level 4, or
Mm.
they're like level 2. I'm like, no, your English is actually a level 4 or 5
Hmm.
because you're speaking English on top of three other languages,
Yeah.
and you're conversing, and we're having a flowing conversation.
Yeah.
And these are the things that they need to remember most of the time. Like you guys need to remember that you're adding English. English is not your first language, and sometimes it's not even your second language.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you have experience with this. Do you speak more than English?
Yes, well, at the moment I'm still learning Czech, which
Mm.
takes a lifetime.
Yeah. Is it a hard one?
I'm like Czech language is annoying. I love it. I love it because it's like it's like a maestro,
Uh-huh.
and your tongue is baton, and you're just kind of like they have the letter R,
Je.
which is not found R, but your tongue, like if you think about what your tongue has to do
Uh-huh.
to just say that letter, it has to sort of like hit the roof of your mouth and do a breakdance backwards. Like it's ridiculous. You're like "Rj." It's a backwards R kind of thing.
How
"Rj."
funny. Je.
It is, yeah, "Rj."
Uh-huh.
But then sometimes they have to go to school to learn that letter. Czechs have to go to school to learn that letter.
Wow.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And
Yeah.
then and that's just one letter. And sometimes you can learn something in Czech, like "Jak se máš?" Or like, "Oh, how are you?"
Uh-huh.
"Jak se máš?" "Mám se fajn," and you're fine with this. And I learned that for about 2 years, and then suddenly someone went, "Jak to jde?" I'm like, what? Yeah, it's exact. And it's like, no, it's the exact same thing. I'm like, no, it's not. It's like
It's completely
like four.
different.
It's completely different. It's like they can say 3 words,
Mm-hmm.
they can say 5 words, and 4 of them are swear words,
Mm.
and one of them is an is, and yet they will understand each other.
Oh, how funny.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'm like, no, I can't do this with you. But I love the language. I do love it. It has a flow to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Each language is so different. It's funny that you say that because each one has its own kind of way of understanding the world, right?
Yes. Yes. Like
Mm.
they have and that's another thing I love about Czech. They have words that are one letter different. So brokolice
Mm-hmm.
is broccoli.
Okay.
Brokovnice is shotgun.
Oh,
And you're like,
what a difference.
like yeah, it's dangerous. It's
That's a dangerous
you can
confusion to make.
it's very you have Vesnice, which is a village, and Visnice, which is prison, and you're like, uh, what? Like I could mess around and get shot accidentally when I'm trying to get vegetables. I don't know. It's I'm trying to find a village, I might end up in prison, and so sometimes you just look at languages. I'm like, how did you guys? Like, who was the person that thought of these languages?
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Yeah, and I have my native Nigerian language
Oh,
because
you
I was
speak.
born in London.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, born in London, but my father's from Nigeria, my mom's from Sierra Leone.
Oh wow.
So
Okay.
I was also raised in Nigeria, and
Uh-huh.
so I speak my native language, Igbo,
Igbo.
which it has one word.
Uh-huh.
So aqua, AKWA,
Uh-huh.
spelled the same way.
Uh-huh.
Means 5 different
Oh my
things. It
goodness.
means egg, it means cry, it means sew, it means to sew on clothes, it means it means sew, and it means cloth.
Oh, that's not
You know,
confusing.
no, not at all. Like Jesus, and you just have to kind of put the stress on different parts of the word for it to mean something else. Aqua, 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 and you're like,
Yeah.
but anyone else just that's all you're hearing. So for me, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, I had to know these things. And so
Yeah.
language has always been interesting to me
Yeah.
because of these
Those little
it's fun.
differences. Yeah.
And so,
And so both of your parents speak, tell me again, how do you say the language? Igu or something? What did you say?
Igbo,
Mm-hmm.
Igbo.
Igbo.
So,
Mm-hmm.
but like the GB in the middle is one letter, is one of our letters.
Okay.
So we have 9, what do they call them? I can't remember what it's called. Like 2 letters that make up one letter.
Maybe a
diphthong, that's the one. That's the one. And we have a KW, KH, GH, GW. And yeah, my head hurts with language. I love it.
I always tell my students, they're so obsessed with grammar that like, how do I learn grammar? I'm like, stop learning grammar.
Leave grammar alone. Trust me, you don't want to do it. And I tell my students that too. They're like, oh, can you learn grammar? I'm like, you need to find another teacher.
I'm not going to teach you grammar.
I don't do that. Like, they're like, yes, but why is it an is and not an are? I'm like, because English is weird. And I tell them most of the times, I'm like, my response is, guys, you need to understand the first rule of English is that it is flexible and weird. It doesn't have to make sense. Yeah. We don't know who started, it's from Latin and a bit of Greek and a bit. It doesn't have to make sense. You just have to accept
There are so many students that are they want that explanation. Like, why is it this way? And I'm looking at them like.
No, don't ask me. I'm not the shaman. Yeah, this is what I like to write for them. I'm like, whenever they say, yeah, but why? I'm like, you have to understand, English people don't even speak English
Thing
sometimes.
the chicken. Yeah.
This is my favorite. They're like, I'm like, can you say that?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, but what is that? I'm like, that is a word. They're like, is it? I'm like, yes. In English, in fact, it's one of our favorite words for when we don't have a word. Because, if I'm sitting at a table and I need the salt on the other side of the table, and in that moment I've forgotten salt, I'm like, pass me the thingamajiggy. The person will pass me the salt.
Yeah.
They don't have to know salt. They know that I mean the salt,
Yeah.
what do you call them? Oh, that's
Yeah,
another one.
that's another
What
one.
I call them? I'm like, what's that one? And they're like, I'm like, yes, that is one of our favorite words. Those are our three favorites. What do you call them?
That's
Thingamajiggy,
funny. It actually
thingamabob.
gives me the option to translate it, and I'm curious. No, I won't come up with anything.
No, no. Even Google is like, can't. I don't feel you on
Nah.
this one. No, no,
That's
no,
not in the
no.
dictionary.
It's not in the dictionary, but you know what? It is one of our favorite things. The what you call them? Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I've had conversations like that with people, like thingamabob.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, him the what you call them?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then
Yeah.
but we know what we're talking about.
There's something in Spanish. Because I live in Spain, so I've been learning
Yeah.
Spanish and I've been learning it for a long time. But there's a word for tired, right? That means like you're actually physically like sleepy versus tired,
Okay.
right? So there's like two different ways of saying that. And I'm curious if there's anything in like the languages like Czech or any languages that you know, or even English, that are like have a different perspective on the world than the other languages.
Okay. So we have I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, but you have a word for I don't
Yeah.
know, and I really don't know.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you have and I really don't know is really funny because I don't know is Nevin. I don't know
Uh-huh.
Nevin, but then you have
Uh-huh.
Nemamparu, which is
I
like
really.
I have no air. Like I have no air. I literally have. It's literally the translation is like, that's and it's always funny for me because I always say that to people when they're like, oh, da, 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 da. I'm just like, Nemamparu. And they always crack up and it always makes me
Uh-huh.
laugh because it's like, I don't know, but it's like, don't ask me, I don't know kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like
Literally
and
have.
the simple translation is, I have no air.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, like, you know, every time I think of that one always cracks me up because I'm just like, yeah. Like I don't know, and
Yeah.
because like I don't know, and I don't
And I
really
really
know,
don't know.
and I really don't know, and I don't know so much. I have nowhere,
Yeah.
you know. But what is the one in Spanish?
Cansado or sueño.
Aha,
Uh-huh.
cansado o sueño.
Yeah. And cansado is
Cansado.
like I'm like physically, well, no, hold on, let me think about it. Cansado is like mentally or emotionally tired. And
Okay,
sueño is when you're like
cansado,
actually sleepy, like you're ready to go to bed. And
suedo,
sueño.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
suedo. Okay, I like the way you did that. Kind of like you have to go into your brain to search the.
You know what
I
movie
do
we
that all
just
the
watched
time.
last night? I don't know if you've ever seen this. Inside Out. Have you seen that movie? It's so
Yes, love
cute.
it,
But I was just
love
thinking
it.
of when they have those little memory balls, and I'm like, that's totally me because I'm like trying to find the words.
I, I do that a lot. I'm just like here in Greece, they have ne for
Uh-huh.
yes, but most of the
That would be
places in the world,
no.
yeah, right, that will be no. So most of the times I'm listening to people and they're like, nah, 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 nah. And I'm just like, oh, they're saying yes. Like they're really agreeing. But in my head, I'm like, that's no. And then they have or he. So every time I go to the supermarket, there's a fight with the lady because she goes, would you want a bag in Greek? And I know I'm supposed to say yes, no, that I don't want a bag. But I'm like, nah, no, wait. And I have to kind of go to the memory bank and like, or he. Yeah, no,
No,
yes.
it's
The no that means
that
yes,
is
but not the yes.
confusing because you're right. In most places, like no, niet, no, like
Not
yeah.
it's like sometimes I just want to kind of take language and go. I'm like, breathe, Kingsley, just breathe. But we have 10 seconds
Yeah.
to know.
Well, thank you so much for this wonderful conversation, Kingsley.
It was an absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you for the
Thank you.
conversation.
Bye.
Bye bye. Take
Bye bye.
care.